I will start from the foundation. For me, everything in life begins with your foundation. If you want to build the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, the foundation is different from if you are building a one-story building. So this is what we have to get. So your foundation is what can limit your ambition. If your foundation is little, then your ambition cannot be so tall. I was very fortunate. I believe in the world destiny. Maybe I was just destined to be who I am, where I am today. My foundation started from the ancient town of Ile, where I was born in 1960, the year of our independence. My parents, to borrow the popular cliche, were humble parents. My father was a road overseer, while my mother was a petty trader. But one thing they did for me, and this is my foundation, is that they made sure I had my education as quickly as possible in those days. In those days, some people went to school very late, but I was fortunate. At the age of 6, I started my primary education. And by 1971, I had finished. And then by 1972, I started my secondary education, and I finished that in 1976. But let me surprise you. I was a slow starter. I was quite slow because I had to do my West African School Certificate examination 3 times. The first time I did it, I had a poor grade 3, which was not enough to get me into a university. I did it a second time. So I did it first time, 1976, did it the second time, 1977. And then that was the year of mass examination question leakage. And so a lot of results were withheld, and mine was one of such. My mom, who did not go to school but knew the value of education, sent me back to do it again a third time in 1978. And this time I was able to get all my needed credits. So before I continue from there, let me also give you a flashback. In 1973, as I was entering Form 3, suddenly my father died. So my father, who was the breadwinner of the family, died on June 14, 1973. I was 13 years old. And my life turned around completely. We could no longer afford to pay our bills, to pay our rent, and I had to move out with my mom to go and live with our cousins in Modakeke. So you can imagine what I had to grapple with as a young man. So that was part of my foundation, but it toughened me. The good thing also was that while in school, in secondary school, we had very good teachers. And I like to place a lot of emphasis on education, good, solid education. We had teachers who came from different parts of the world. And my interest in literature and storytelling got its foundation from a woman who came from Singapore, Mrs. H. Sutton. She's still alive. I'm sure she must be close to 90 now. I visited her in London, I think, in the last 2 years. Mrs. Sutton, aroused and ignited my interest in literature. And this literature will form part of what I do today, which is storytelling. Without literature, you cannot tell any story. So from around Form 2, Form 3, you won't believe it, I started reading Wole Soyinka's poems like Abiku, In Vain Your Bamboo Scarf, Jam Circles at My Feet, I'm an Abiku calling for the first and the repeated times. Must I wait for goats and cowries, for palm oil and the sprinkled ash? Yams do not sprout. Yes. So I think my phone was muted. I don't know what happened. So let me just take that part again. That I was fortunate to have a teacher who came from Singapore, Mrs. H. Sutton, who taught me literature, and she aroused and ignited my interest in literature. So when you talk about storytelling today, I picked my interest from that moment. I remember reading Wole Soyinka's poems as a young man. Like Abiku was my favorite then, which I can still recite till today from that moment. And I'm talking about 50 years or thereabout ago. In vain your bangles cast, charm circles at my feet. I'm an Abiku calling for the first and the repeated times. Must I weep for goats and cowries for palm oil and the sprinkled ash? The arms do not sprout in amulets to have Abiku's limbs, and so on and so forth. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that what you become in life begins from your foundation. And then I read literature voraciously. So even before I started traveling and telling stories about different countries, different places, meeting different people, I already knew about those countries. I read Weep Not Child by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, for example, the Kenyan author. And before I went to Kenya, I already had an idea about Kenya. I read about the Mau Mau struggle for independence in Kenya. I read about the founding fathers of Kenya. I read about Jomo Kenyatta, the father of Uhuru Kenyatta, who left recently as president. I read about Ojinga Odinga, the father of Odinga, who just left also not too long ago, the prime minister of Kenya. I knew about the Kikuyu language. I knew so much about that country that the first time I went there, it was like I'd been there before. I read Mongo Betty from Cameroon. And, it was so interesting that when I went to Cameroon and I was telling my Cameroonian friends that, oh, I knew Mongo Betty. Say, how? I said, from secondary school. I knew about Ferdinand Oyono. I knew about Imbela Soni Dipoko, and they were shocked. And of course, Ghana, where I have a home today. Before I went to Ghana, the biggest influence on me was the Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I bought and read virtually all his books. South Africa, I read about the apartheid struggle, read Alex Laguma, A Walk in the Night. In Zambia, I read about Kenneth Kaunda, the founding father of Zambia. Zambia must be free. In Tanzania, I read about the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and so on and so forth. So for me, I think your foundation is everything. So I'll fast forward to around the time I did my school start exam, and to tell you that despite my failures, I was still struggling to work. And unknown to me, cumulatively, what I was doing was preparing me for my future. For example, I was a village teacher in a very remote part of Ilefe where there were no vehicles taking you. You had to jump on cocoa tractors to be able to get to that location. I worked as an errand boy at CSS bookshop, very close to the Ife Palace, where for the first time I met Aishulani, and I started reading books, picking books from the shelf, and I started educating myself. Thereafter, I worked at the University of Ife Library, what is now known today as Ezekiah Oluwasomi Library of Bafemi Awolowo University. I was a library attendant, and that was where I started developing interest in reading literature more. And the bookshop, if a bookstore was just next door, so I used to visit the place. I made friends with older people. My closest friends have always been older people, much older, because I picked from their wisdom. So, and I knew that the first thing you must have in life is humility. Even in Oduifa, when you talk about storytelling, no kamuragba taragba, kamuragba taragba, iwa, iwa lanwa character. I was taught about the power of character, about the power of integrity, about the power of truthfulness. So that was my foundation. And then I went into the university, and this will interest you. Of all the subjects in the world, I chose to read Yoruba. Nobody could, even me till today, I don't know how I could have decided to read Yoruba of all courses, but there was something pushing me. I realized that every year during convocation ceremony in Ife, over 200 people will graduate from English department, from law faculty, from other so-called, funky and psychedelic courses. But everybody was running away from our vernacular languages because they felt, oh, how can people hear that I'm reading Yoruba? Even my mother, who was an illiterate, had to ask me one day, I immediately she was saying, that are you so dull that of all things, you are in the university to read Yoruba? But I did it because I like to be different. It is the power of being different, of standing out in whatever you do in life. You have to try and stand out. So I finished Yoruba, but I did elective courses in English literature, where the issue of storytelling continued, But in my final year in Part 4, I did strictly Yoruba courses. Now, after I did that, I lectured A-level at the Oyo State College of Arts and Science, also in Ilefe, while on national service. And why would I serve in a place where I was born? The NYSC sent me initially to Bauchi State, but when I got there, I didn't resist. It's not like now where people lobby to go somewhere, but I didn't resist. I went there, but when I got there, they said they had no use for Yoruba graduate, so they bounced me back to Oyo State. That time there was no issue. And when I got to Oyo State, they said, well, the only place you can get for you now where you can be a teacher is the Oyo State College of Arts and Science. I went there. Today, some of my friends, some of my clients, big clients, were actually my students. Because at the age of 22, I started teaching A levels. I was very young, So, and after that, I decided to do some other jobs. I won't bore you with that because we want to talk about this art of storytelling. So I now decided by 1985 that I want to go back for my master's degree. And it's part of the foundation. You can see I was not in a hurry to say, okay, let me just go and work and forget it. So, but I wanted to make myself better, to equip myself in readiness for the future. So if I'm going to be a teacher, I didn't want to just be a regular teacher. I wanted to teach at the level of either College of Education or the university itself. But that was my love. My dream was to be a teacher, probably marry a teacher and live happily thereafter. So I went back to Ife and I applied to read a master's in literature in English. Of course, Ife refused. They said they've never heard of such a thing. A man with a first degree Yoruba now wants to cross to English literature at the master's level. How is that possible? It's not possible. And then fortunately, I had a mentor, Professor Adeniji Adaralegbe, God bless his soul, who then approached the Faculty of Arts and the Department of Literature in English that, look, this gentleman wants to do what has not been done before. So why don't you give him an opportunity? And then the university reluctantly agreed that I could do my master's degree, but with a clause that I must go back for a requisite course in literature in English at the undergraduate level. So I'll be doing my undergraduate and my master's peri passu. So I was doing both simultaneously. So I went back humbly. You must humble yourself because that is your preparation. So I went back and I was doing that undergraduate course. But after a few weeks, my lecturers called me and said, hey, Dele, you were way ahead of the class. So there's no point wasting your time going into two different, lectures. So they then give me an exemption letter and relieved me to concentrate fully on my master's courses. And I finished that in 1988. So my next challenge was, okay, how would I get a job? Joblessness can lead to anything. I applied everywhere. College of Education in Ekiti, Adeni College of Education Ondo, University of Ife and everything. I couldn't get a job. And at the end of the day, I had friends who were living together. Everybody had jobs except Dele Momodu. It was joblessness and desperation that now drove me into becoming a writer. I never dreamt, it didn't even occur to me. If I wanted to write, I was hoping to work maybe at Heinemann Books, Evans, Onibo Oja, and the rest of them at that time in Ibadan. So until my friend, Damola Dele, called me one day and said, hey, Dele, you have a first degree in Yoruba and a master's in literature. Why can't you be writing for newspapers? I said, newspapers? I said, it never occurred to me. You will not believe it. That's why I started writing. And I wrote for The Guardian. They were paying me 25 naira per article. I will publish about 4, travel from Ife to Lagos to collect 100 naira. 100 naira at that time was still some sizable money. Then I was writing for the Sunday Tribune. They were not paying me. And I want to tell you something here about the power of apprenticeship. In life, you must prepare. But if you don't serve others, nobody is likely to serve you in the future. So you must start by serving others. So I went through all that. Then one day, boom, one of the articles I co-authored with my friend and schoolmate, Kunle Ajibade, exploded in Nigeria. And everybody was talking about us. You know, these guys from Ife, oh, wow, this is hard, this is serious. And you will not believe it. That's all I needed to take to Lagos to now find a job. So I got to Lagos. I wanted the Guardian newspaper. And now you can see I'm a storyteller. This is part of what my job entails. I got to Lagos. The Guardian was my dream paper because the Guardian was very prestigious and all that. I got to Lagos, but they rejected me. They said they couldn't give me a job. I didn't know that my destiny had somewhere better in store for me. Then my friend, the late Onukabadu, Adinoye Ojo, God bless his soul, then took me to the Concord newspaper. Reluctantly, I followed. I said, Concord, I heard that Abiola is not a good man. Oh, Abiola is a fundamentalist. Oh, Abiola, those are the Fela sang songs against Abiola, and so on and so forth. Please, follow your own instinct and form your own judgment. Don't listen to rumors. People make that mistake because there are too many storytellers in Nigeria and they will tell you things that will discourage you. I like to have my personal experience, no matter what you say about anybody, until I find out what I should not find out. I remain neutral. So, unknown to me, Abiola was going to turn my life around permanently. So, I went to Concord, started my job at the African Concord magazine, which was very, technical, very, there's a word for it, very tough magazine. It's not like the one I do today, which people call Owambe and all that. So I started there and I was writing good stories. After a few months, I started May 1988. By February of 89, I was transferred. I met with my editor. He called me. He said, the managing director of Concord newspapers, Dr. Amidat Doyin-Abiola, chose me as one of the people who must start a new publication under the Concord stable. It was called the Weekend Concord, which was headed by Mr. Mike Awefa. The deputy was Mr. Dingba Igwe, also of blessed memory. So anyway, I wrote the first cover for the Weekend Concord, and it was so explosive that every week people started looking forward to my stories. I would travel, come back with exclusive upon exclusive. And my editor, Mr. Mike Awefa, was so fond of me and started encouraging me. He gave me a double promotion from staff writer in February. By May, I had become literary editor. I skipped senior staff writer, and I became literary editor. 6 months after that, I became news editor, which made me number 3, that newspaper stable. Can you believe a guy who was barely 1.5 years in Lagos? I was already news editor 1.5 years after, November 1989. Then 6 months later, the late Mieli Ezekiel Bufedamijo came. She was the publisher of Classic magazine, God bless her soul. She came to poach me from Concord. And the deal was so irresistible that even my editor told me, look, Dele, you have to go. You're already number 3 here. You have peaked so quickly. And I followed Mielin to Classic, and I was announced as the highest paid editor in Nigeria. Exactly 2 years. In May. There is something about May for me. I was born May 16, 1960. I got to Lagos May 1988. I got promoted May 1989. I became the highest paid editor May 1990. That was the story of my life and my trajectory. So things moved very quickly for me, very, very quickly. Sporadically, I don't know what I did to God. A friend of mine said, God is very partial about my case. I agree with him that God has been very partial, but I also try to put in a lot of work. Here I wrote what Chief Abiola said about hard work. He said, hard work is prayer in action. You can take it down. Hard work is prayer in action. Nothing good comes easy. Nothing good comes easy. Then, because of my long journey to Lagos, 28 years before I came to Lagos, I already knew also about the power of innovation, which doctors spoke about. I had done all kinds of menial jobs, in my life just to keep body and soul together. So getting to Lagos, I was already a matured man. I always tell people when they come to me, I want to do this, I want to do that. I tell them, don't be in a hurry. Just take your time. In God's own triggers up. So then about contentment. Hello, okay. I also learned about contentment. I realized that some young people nowadays, they believe if Lagbaja can make it, then you should also make it. No, contentment is very key in life. While a lot of people were following Chief Abiola, for example, for his money, I was following him for his wisdom. The best thing that can happen to you in life is to be wise. If you have sagacity, you have everything. So in dealing with people ask me, how are you able to network easily? How come people are able to welcome you into their homes? It is the power of trust. When you humble yourself and you know how to treat your fellow human beings, you will realize that everybody will be comfortable in your presence. Everybody. There's nowhere I've been in my life. Nowhere. Then my courage. You will never see me look rough, talk rough. Never. There are people, they are very brilliant, but they spoil everything because of their courage, because of their temper, because of their temperament. So I learned very early in life how to be tolerant, how to accommodate, and how to argue my point with superior logic. Fortunately, in Ife, we were taught logic in philosophy. So it was a compulsory subject in Ife in those days. I don't know about now. So if something is not logical to me, then it is not reasonable. So these were the things that kept me going. Then the power of reinvention. Look, every now and then, and this is where the topic of today really comes in, is that Ovation started at a time when there was no digital technology. everything was manual. Even photography, you were using Kodak film, you were using Agfa, and so on and so forth. But suddenly, they brought new cameras, and people were saying digital, digital. I'm like, what's this one again? We resisted it at first. They can never be like the original. Please, anytime there is an innovation, whether it will work for you or not, try it. If you don't try, you may not be able to catch up. A lot of my contemporaries right now who did not key into the digital era early, today they are crying. On Instagram, for example, I have 1.1 million followers. On Twitter, I have 1.8 million followers. On Facebook, I have over 300,000 followers. So look at them cumulatively. And then look at my age. I'm a 64-year-old man going on 65. So, and I handle all my handles. Please listen, I had to train myself how to type. In my era, we were not typing. Everything was written longhand. Then you give it to a secretary who will now retype for you. And then it was such a rigorous process. I had to learn. And let me tell you, I use only one finger to type. And I will use one finger to type 2,000 words for you. Even you that you are using both hands, you are not faster than me. Necessity is the mother of invention. So you have to reinvent yourself. And so Ovation started during the analog era, and now we are in the digital era. So how do I upgrade? It's like you have been in economy and you now want to upgrade to business class or to first class. How do you do it successfully? So we did it. Today, we still have the hard copy, which is only for the older people, the older generation. The younger people watch everything on their phones, including television. People have asked me, how come Ovation does not have a television house, a big television house? And I told them, I said, well, if I want to masturbate and say I'm a big man in the typical Nigerian fashion, I will go and raise the money and then go and buy a warehouse somewhere or a big premises somewhere and install all kinds of gadgets, satellites, and everything. And I'll be losing money, or I'm using it to blackmail people to be able to make money, or I'm losing money and I'm doing big man. It is the power of this. Today, we still have the Ovation International magazine. We have the hard copy, which, as I said, we produce exclusively now for those who can afford it. The online version, which you can send just on WhatsApp, you can get a whole magazine and you open it as if you are reading a normal magazine, or it's on your phone. And you can project it to your television if you want. And people instantly see. So if you do a wedding and you engage Ovation to produce a special edition for you, 64 pages, 200 pages, it is so easy. So you can send it and transmit it. There is no vendor that can carry 200,000 copies in Nigeria today. So now the e-version allows you to reach millions of people just at the touch of a button. That is the power of reinvention. And how did I come about this reinvention? It's very important to tell the story. In 2011, I contested to be the president of Nigeria. Of course, I lost. Maybe if I didn't lose, we won't be here talking now. But I lost. So that was when this new media called social media came up. Yeah, in 2011, it came up, and I was using it to campaign because I thought Nigeria was going to be like the Obama thing. So the Obama revolution in America, that's what deceived me into thinking I can contest the election and win in Nigeria. I had 26,000 votes. I tried, and I thank all those who risked their votes for me, even though they knew I stood no chance. So, but what did I do after the election? I migrated from politics. I migrated my social media from politics to business. In fact, I had people who were handling my social media accounts at that time. You know, Imai Godwin, Amai, Bankole, Omishore, and the rest of them. You know, they were the ones who taught me how to operate social media. By 2012, January, when that fuel subsidy demonstration happened, I realized that anytime I needed to tweet, I had to wait for them. I had to look for them. That was when I got angry. I said, yeah, you guys, tell me how you do this thing. I didn't know it's something I could easily operate. They taught me, and look at how many followers I have today. So after that, I just started using Meet for Ovation. So whatever I'm doing in Ovation, so now my clients, and I, of course, you know, we have big clients from all over the world, enjoy a combination, a potpourri of all those things that we're doing digitally. So it's a good day for all of us. It's a happy day for all of us. But I realize that a lot of people go on social media to abuse people. You can do a lot of business. Trust me. Some people in our generation are making millions. Some people in our generation are making billions of dollars from social media, which some people, every day they are complaining, your generation spoiled Nigeria, your generation killed Nigeria. Even if you believe so, the generation has not stopped you from creating a new Nigeria. And that's my vision for our younger friends. And that's why I come on this platform to speak to our younger friends that if Dele Momodu, the son of peasants, the son of lumpen proletariats, can make it, you too can make it. You can become a member of the privileged. That is what God has done in my life. But it's not as if I just dropped from heaven and success came down with me. No, that's not it. So, in a nutshell, what I want to tell you is the power of reading. Dr. Akitayo said the same thing. You must read and read and read as if your life depends on reading. This is a book now on Sonny Abacha. A lot of people will just hear Sonny Abacha. If you ask, oh, who is Sonny Abacha? Oh, he was a leader. This is a book on why nations fail. Anytime I travel, while my mates are busy buying the clothes, shoes, and everything, I just buy a little, and I go to the next bookshop. This is a book on wisdom. This book contains so many powerful thinkers, including Nelson Mandela, Chinua Achebe, from all over the world. So I go there and I pick their quotes. The power of reading. Chief Adebanjo is right now, I'm sure, over 95. I was with him just last Sunday. This is his biography. I go back to read about him. He was one of those sentenced to prison with Chief Obafemi Awolowo at that time. Chinua Achebe. I go, even some of his rarest books that most people have never seen. This is a book that most people have never seen by Chinua Achebe. You know, he calls it Home and Exile. I read very unusual book. There is a young man, if you can find him, Azu Arinze. He's a journalist, and he used to be the editor of the Encomium magazine. Look, if you see what this young man has done with his life, he's just writing books. He has telling me, I've written my own books, but he has telling, look, this is another book by Azu Arinze. He calls this one the CEO's Bible. If you can find it, please read, because what he has done for you is to compress stories, interviews he has had with virtually every great man in Nigeria. You can see it in different volumes. See the man, see old Bible. So as you arrange his name, you can find him on and this one of his books because anything and everything journalism. So nobody knows everything. You must also learn from others. This is Olusegun Adeniyi, Power, Politics, and Death. This is about the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. You see, every leader in Nigeria at one time, this is about Buhari. You can see, this is about Buhari, you know. This is Obasanjo. I have, in my library here, I have so many books by Obasanjo. So, this is the first book that radicalized me in life. The Man Died by Wole Soyinka. You can see the cover has even disappeared because this book, you will not believe, I bought on June 21st, 1978. I bought this book just as I was entering part 1 at the University of Ife. People used to call me Dele Mad, if you can see there, because of my initials, Momodu Ayobami Dele. So they say, you are a mad person, you're always reading books. But see what it has done for me today. Now, these are my own books. You can see my experience as a presidential candidate in 2011. That's it, 2011. My articles, I've written hundreds, if not thousands of articles. And this is the first collection which was edited by Ruben Abati. In fact, this book was ready in 1997, but I didn't publish it until about 5 years ago. This is Pendulum, volume 1. Volume 2 was edited by Prince Amala Dele. That is even bigger. This is the second one. And they're all on Amazon.com if you have the chance to buy. And they say on Okonwoja, many roads lead to a market. So this is a book I produced for the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Dogara. You can see the book. So if you have anyone who also wants us to write his biography or produce something, so I'm available. I work because my bills are huge, and without working, I will not be able to pay those bills. So I believe, I've taken a lot of time already. So they say I have to take about 20 minutes of questions. So if you are ready, I think I am ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Dele Momodu. Wonderful session. You have an inspirational story indeed.
Thank you,
and
lot
to learn. You're a man, self-made. Let's celebrate Chief Dele. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful insights.
Thank you.
I believe there are a few questions. If we can take few. One second, just let me scroll down. The question is, Chief Momodu, to you is, my question is in our society today, seem not to encourage hard work, speaking the truth, work smart with some organization owners. How do you speak to someone like me, because I'm speaking from experience?
Well, every society evolves, and there is no perfection anywhere. Every society. Some people will tell you, how they do it in America. I've been to America. How they do it in London. I've been to over 60 countries and over 1,000 cities in my life. I've flown over 1 million miles on Virgin Atlantic alone. Last year, I qualified for a lifetime goal. And that's another thing I want to plead with people. If you can fly, if you can travel, please do. Because you learn new lessons. All the assumptions that you have in your own cocoon, what Francis Bacon called the idol of the cave. You are just there, or the idols of the marketplace, all those idols, all those assumptions, until you begin to interact with other people. I've been to India, I've been to China, I've been to Australia. Until you begin to interact with other people, then you know that there is no perfection anywhere. So this issue of, oh, I'm no longer interested in going to school, I want to make money. It's okay. There are people who didn't go to school. There are people who dropped out. I don't think Bill Gates has a PhD. I don't think Zuckerberg have a PhD. So, but it all depends on your focus. If you are able to determine what interests you, I tell people, passion will take you far. Passion with tenacity, because when you start your passion, then you will need tenacity to sustain it. There are people who are bad finishers. They will start something good, but they can never finish well. So you have to be very, very careful that whatever you are starting, make sure that is something you will be able to finish very well. Ovation, I've had enough challenges to kill my interest. Many people have resigned from Ovation over time, but I'm the only one who can never resign because my life depends on it absolutely. I have nowhere to go. So make sure your life depends on what business, what career you have chosen. Otherwise, trust me, when the vicissitudes of life push you, you will run away. So I'm the only one. Every day, people will say, oh, Ovation will die. I say, Ovation cannot die. Even if I die, we are training other people who can take over from us. Because I believe in life that any successful man without good successors is just a useless man. So there are other people who are doing, look at the Azu Arize that I quoted from just now. He started writing for us part-time as a young reporter. But see what he has been able to produce for himself. So you must be ready to serve under people. And when people say, oh, people are no longer interested in hard work. So, okay, what alternative do you have? To go and steal or to do 419? No, that's not an option. Thank you.
Sir, one question, because I saw your profile, very, very multifaceted, inspirational story. Yeah, you are a journalist, you are an author, you are a politician as well, you know, and how do you balance out all these facets, especially, journalists are big critique of politicians, and for the right or wrong reasons. So how do you structure yourself that at this time you are a journalist or a politician and being socially responsible at the same time? So it's a tough ask, sir. I would like to learn from you.
Well, I knew that question was coming. When you started, I knew you were going to ask that question. The thing is that it is called the power of multitasking. You must be able to multitask. What journalism has done for me is to give me a voice. That voice becomes useless if I don't practicalize it. Most journalists end up writing all their lives, but they are not able to influence their society. The greatest nationalist in Nigeria, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the Oweli of Onitsha, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Chief Ladoke Akintola, the former premier in the Western region, even Abbas Macaulay, all the great nationalists of Nigeria, at one time or the other, they were journalists. Journalism is a noble profession. It's a profession that gives you access to information. And information gives you access to knowledge. And knowledge gives you, what you call vision. Because when you have knowledge, then you become visionary. So for me, people think, hey, you this guy, don't you think you are putting your business at risk? By dabbling into politics. People even told me they will kill your business. Your business, I said, look, if your foundation is not strong enough, then they can kill your business. But now what I've done is that on my Instagram page, for example, I'm attacking government on one right and I'm doing business on the left. And people can't understand me. But the thing is that I'm driving the traffic of those who don't like entertainment to my page, while I'm driving those who like entertainment from the other side to my page. It's a win-win. And I'm not abusing government. I am not rude. I am giving them good reasons to give us good governance. Everywhere in the world, those who have changed the world were those who were bold enough to speak truth to power. How many people have ovation in Africa today? Not many. So if I have ovation, ovation must positively affect Africa. I'm not involved in violence. I'm not a violent man. I'm not a thug. I'm not going to kill anybody. But my pen is stronger than the sword. That's what they told me. So I'm using that pen to affect my society. Of course, I'm losing government patronage because they won't like me because I'm in opposition. But it doesn't matter. I will manage whatever I get legitimately.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Barry, do we have time for the few more questions? Mr. Barry. Mr. Farooq?
Yeah, I think we can take about 1 or 2 questions.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. I think.
Okay. Chief Dele, I would just like to glean maximum out of you. There's a question in the comment box. How do we survive in a society where quick money syndrome is encouraged than hard work? And secondly, how we can induce reading of habit? You know, reading habit. Some people, even including myself, we purchase books, we start reading, then at some stage we lose passion or whatever, and again that book goes on the shelf. So how we can consistently induce reading culture? So these two comments, please.
Okay. The issue of quick money, like I said, is everywhere. It's not just Nigeria. If you look, there's a Yoruba proverb that says, if you dig deep enough, you will see that every wealth comes from debt, from what do you call it? From debt. Every wealth has a tinge of debt attached to it. People have to do this and that. They have to manipulate the system, manipulate the fellow human beings just for them to be rich. But there are people who have done it in God's way. In fact, one of my favorite biographies was that of this Ibadan chief. He died a few years ago, a great man, Chief Bode Akindele, the Parakoye of Ibadan land. He wrote a book, I Did It in God's Way. That book for me inspires me endlessly, that you can do it. People think, oh, Dele Momodu has a lot of money, but I built slowly but steadily. I didn't get it until today. I managed. Today, I've only had a cup of coffee in this house. I manage. So when I make money, I can enjoy and relax. But when I notice that the economy is going down, then I adjust. I love to fly first class anywhere I go. But when I see that things are not moving too good, then I go back to lower classes. That's life. Life is a graph. It goes, and so, but if you try to copy your friends who have made it, you don't know how they made it. You don't know if they had to kill human beings to make it. And you want to be like them, then you end up in prison. So I am who I am. That is what I do. There's a song by Sinach, I know who I am. That's one of my favorite Christian songs, because I know who I am. You must know who you are. Then on the issue of reading culture, it's very personal to everybody. But trust me, once you develop interest in it, it is very addictive. I will turn the telephone now since we're doing, okay. Just a minute. Are you able to see my library here?
And we can see that, yeah.
You can see, and this is just my office at home. This is my office at home. This is not my office. I have a bigger library now. I've just developed what I call the Dele Momodu Leadership Center in Ibadan, which we are going to open very soon by the grace of God. And that's my interest. I'm going back to my first floor. So you try to make money, but after making money, Then try to remember that thing you wanted to do as a young man. And then you can now use that money to develop it. So that's what I'm saying. I wanted to be a lecturer. I've spent about 2 sessions at Oxford University as a visiting scholar. I never dreamt that I would be in that environment one day and be reading, using library and everything, interacting with fellow scholars. That has always been my dream. But now, because I'm getting older, I'll be 65. My next birthday, I'll be 65. So I'm already winding down and now going back to my first love, which is academic work. And I hope every one of us will pick an interest and sustain the interest. Thank you so much. God bless you all.